Hi guys, I have something very brand new to show to you today. It's the very first trolling reel with line counter and a lever drag, which hasn't been existing on the market at all so far. There are very little lever drag reels with a line counter, but those are not bespoke trolling reels. This is the very first bespoke trolling reel, lever drag and line counter. I'm really proud of it because that is something I have been dreaming of for many years, that it would exist on the market, and I found it always not logic that it didn't exist. And I was working hard with our company and with our team to get such a reel. So basically, such a development is not an easy task because you really need to reconstruct the reels which there are on the market. And as you know, there are a lot of fans of lever drag reels, but nowadays there's more demand for line counter. So to bring this together has a very particular reason, and it's in the history. When I started trolling fishing for salmon, it was in the early 90s, all the pros did use lever drag reels because the lever drag has a superior drag performance. There's no faster way to change between max drag and free spool than with a lever drag. On a star drag, you always fiddle back and forth, and you never see the position. Here on the lever drag, you see exactly, I'm on half drag force now. Full, free spool, nothing faster than that. So pros always appreciated that. The dilemma is, with the changing fishing techniques, the line counter became more important. The line counter you use when you use divers, for instance, because the line length which you let out determines how deep the diver runs, and so you want to know the distance. Also, when you set out inline boards or planner boards, you want to know the distance. You want to optimize your setup. So there was a desire for line counters. But as there were no lever drags with line counters available, what did the people do? I have to bite the bullet, so I use star drags, but I want the line counter. So I suppose there are hundreds out there, if not thousands, who have been waiting for a long time for the return of a lever drag reel for trolling with a line counter. Here it is. But I want to tell you and explain you a bit about that. It's not an easy way to get to such a reel. At the beginning is always the idea. Then, of course, the first steps which you do is you go to a factory, to your engineers, and you start with construction drawings. Later on, you then start to make 3D prints, and it starts with something like this. This something which looks like a reel is just a sheer plastic body, and it's just glued together, some plastic pieces, 3D, and it's meant that you can grab the reel. Does it fit? Does it feel right? Are the proportions okay? And then you change to something like this. You take parts of an existing reel, and basically this is one of the great advantages of our new Wizard 420 LCLD lever drag reel. It's based on an existing platform, and this platform is very cool because it has this large size of gears, a strong knob and a strong power handle. So there are parts existing, and the white parts here actually, they are 3D printed. So with such a model, you get the first one where you can turn the handle, where you can start checking some features. It's not ready for fishing, but it allows you to make the first checks. So the next step becomes more interesting, and I don't have it here with me, but you can see it here. The next step is where you see on a reel there are less white parts. White parts are the 3D printed ones. So, but this is Sven Calvert, one of our pros who fishes. He just places salmon on this picture. We have a video of that with one of the prototypes. So he's using then one of the prototypes where there's still some white plastic pieces on, just to check the reel thoroughly than in real life. Afterwards, you have then a true finished prototype where you have just black parts on, and that's almost a finished reel. There's just no artwork on. But this is the reel where you start then proper testing. And this one went out. I think we had 6 of them available. Some went to Finland, some to Sweden, some to Denmark, and the Danish people shared with the Germans, and the Finnish exchanged in between themselves. So did the Swedish people. So most of our trolling sponsored anglers had the opportunity to truly fish this reel. And I think that's very important for you to know if you want to gain confidence. After testing these reels, you have these test reports where you see a lot of points marked, what needs to be changed, what needs to be amended. So you have thoroughly tested the reel, you figured out all the little things which you think could be better, and then the maker returns to you and the maker starts making new drawings for some areas, revised parts, and constantly you improve the product until you are really satisfied. I want to tell you a bit about the things which are the critical areas on such a reel. The critical areas is not the gear. The gear, believe me, that's so super strong, it won't fail even after 10 years. There's no problem. It's a good knob, it's a carbon reinforced plastic material, the body, aluminum spool, stainless steel handle, stainless steel foot, very corrosion resistant, nothing you need to worry about. The key areas are 3. The drag itself, the clicker, and the line counter. I start from the clicker. The clicker, first of all, must be very robust. Should not jump away, and it needs to be in good shape for a long time. And when the clickers engage, it must be noisy, because the angler wants this to have an indication, I have a bite there. He wants to hear it, even if it's windy out there. So, and to ensure a good clicker performance, we have selected only metal parts inside. If you have plastic parts, which we use still on some of the prototypes, you have too much wear and they wear out and they become more silent over time. So we decided we go only for the best, and the best is metal inside for a good clicker performance. Next, the drag. Obviously, for those who have used a lever drag reel before, I show it to you in the normal position, you might miss something here. On a normal lever drag reel, you have typically a knob here in this place, and this is called the strike position. So you have a free spool, the strike position, and full position. And typically you have a knob to which you can put your lever up, and then you have your max drag power. And if you push in the knob, you can go above, and that means increase your drag force even more. But realistically, in daily life, you're just switching those 2 positions. And we found this is a bit a pity, because you lose drag range, because your drag range could be much better. And if you really want to vary your drag force over a certain area from 0 to max, the wider the areas, the more you can adjust in between, which we really like, because the light settings are very good when you let the line out with the downrigger down or with the inline boards out. So you want to have the light settings, but you want to react on the fish in the fight very precisely. So this setting and this redesign of the drag, it's the very first drag without this position, allows you to have the maximum range available. That's very, very cool. Secondly, this lever itself, you might notice if you look at it, it's relatively shallow. You must be able to touch it, but you don't want it that it stands out too high, because if it stands out too high, and if you play a fish like that, and if you have a light belly like I have, and maybe a inflatable vest on top, so you're a bit here, and if you push against it, it might force your lever to jump down and to release line more freely than you want. So the lower this profile is, the less this risk is. So we really paid attention to this detail. The drag curve itself is determined by an excenter element inside here, and I have that part here. It's this one is a CNC cut brass one, and the way how this excenter is designed and sits in here determines how the drag curve is. And I have a schematics here, and it's a bit simplified, but it shows you what I want to show you. The red line shows a very straight drag curve like we use it in the Rhino, from 0 to max without jumps from free spool to maximum lever position. Typical lever drag reels have this kind. Once you engage the first click, it jumps already to some significant drag pressure, has then a more or less even increase to the strike position, and after the strike position it jumps to max. So this is something what we thought is not desirable when you want to play a furious salmon or strong sea trout. So we prefer to have this smooth and even drag curve over the full distance. So that's very, very unique for the Rhino Wizard LCLD. The next point which we paid a lot of attention to is the drag material itself. So this is no joke here. This is an assortment of various drag discs which we have evaluated when we designed the reel. Because the key is that you really want to have a very, very smooth drag here on this prototype. So when you pull with a true drag setting, there's no jamming. It's very, very, very smooth. And that's what we want, because we don't want to be frightened by this. It's going like that. You don't want that the fish makes you fear. You want to have the assurance when the fish wants to take a bit line, he can take it and it's not blocked by a poor drag. To figure that out, we used different plastic materials. We used PTFE, Teflon. We used some fiber stuff, non-greased and greased one. We ended up where we started actually, but we always thought, is there a better way? We started with carbon drag discs. And the carbon drag disc, actually, the strong side is its strength, because it has no wear over time. It's so durable. And to make that ultra smooth, it's greased in the Rhino Wizard with a grease called Cal's grease. And Cal's grease is a very known grease from big game fishing reels. So it's a proven one, and it ensures that we have an optimal drag performance within this reel. So we paid a lot of attention to that. We discussed with our sponsored anglers about it, and we are sure that we found the right conclusion at the end of the day. Last but not least, the line counter. The line counter counts the line as typical for trolling anglers in feet. Some people prefer meter, but in trolling most of the distances are given in feet. Even your downrigger shows the depth in feet. The presetting on a lot of eco sounders is feet too, so it's very logical for us to measure in feet. For those who prefer figures in meter, divide the feet figure by 3 and you have the same result in meter. Beside that, it's a very complete package, robust gears, superior lever drag, faultless line counter, reliable clicker, robust materials, corrosion resistance, optimal size. It holds more than 300 meter 040, 045 line, an equivalent of braid. Typically when we use braids of 030, 035, so you have sufficient braid on those reels too. It's available in the moment, as most of the pros prefer as a right hand. We considered to do a left hand the year after. Let's see whether we get that at some stage, but that's the launch model. And I'm sure this does not only fulfill my dreams, it fulfills the dreams of a lot of professional salmon trolling angler, sea trout trolling angler. It could be the reel of your future too. And I can assure you, when you decide to buy it, it's one of the most proven and tested reels which we ever launched.